Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dylan, and welcome to Dylan the Truth podcast. If you guys are new to this channel, I would like you guys to subscribe to this channel and also hit the like button. Deeply appreciate it. Um, I'm here to talk about the top 10 hip hop albums of 2022. I know the year is coming to an end, and I'm just gonna list my top 10 hip hop albums of this year. And, also probably, on each album, I'll give like about a couple of songs I feel like are the best on that album. So I'm gonna start from 10 and work my way up to 1. So number 10 that I have on the best hip hop album of 2022 is Drake and 21 Savage, Her Loss. Um, for me, when it comes to Drake, I'm a bit skeptical with his albums because he seems to pretty much be repetitive. And, I know what I'm going to get from his albums. It's basically, him doing like R&B tracks. And then, here and there he'll throw in some kind of trap type music. So it's like he pretty much has a formula that he sticks with and he never changes it. But I felt this album was pretty solid. I mean, him and 21 Savage had a pretty good mixture on this album. I felt like, they had a great chemistry on it. There was a couple of tracks that I felt that, really stood out to me on this album. One was the Back Outside Boys. It's one of those tracks that you bump in your car. It's a really heavy track. Then you have Spin About You. That's probably one of the popular ones on that album. Probably one of the most popular track on that album. It has sort of like a 90s R&B feel to it. Like obviously he sampled it from a 90s group. When you hear it, you could hear it. That there's like this 90s feel to that. And also, I would say the track, it was just 21 Savage. It was like towards the end, I believe. It was 3 a.m. on Glenwood. Um, if you listen to the track, 21 Savage is just flowing on that beat, man. Like he's just riding that beat nice. And I felt like, okay, all right, he's getting back to, rapping. So I was like, yeah, I felt it was pretty cool. I mean, overall, that the album was pretty solid. Obviously, you knew it was gonna do numbers just because it's Drake alone. So I wasn't surprised that it did. I think it was like 300K or a little over that. So I'm not surprised by it, but it was a pretty solid album. I have it number 10 for the best hip hop album of 2022. Number 9, I have The Game, which is the Drillmatic Heart versus Mind. Um, I felt this album was really, really solid. Um, and he had a lot of tracks on it. I think he had like maybe, God, I think 20 something tracks on it. I can't remember exactly, but there's a lot of songs on it. I felt this album could have been a bit bigger, but I felt like with Game, he was too busy, trying to, clout chase. He was just doing a little too much. I guess he was trying to, promote the album. I get it. But I felt he was doing a little too much. This album should have been bigger than what it was, like how people received it. Because that album, it went hard. There's a couple of tracks that I really like on that album. One of them was the Black Slim Shady. That's obviously a diss track to Eminem. The diss track was like 10 minutes. I was like, how do you have like a diss track of one person? You're dissing somebody for like 10 minutes straight. That's just ridiculous. I mean, you must really have a. I mean, you must really have something against this guy for you to diss him for like 10 minutes straight. I mean, damn. Like, nonetheless, I mean, I love how the beat was. You know, it was pretty. It was pretty nice. He flowed nice to it. I felt the first half of the song, like that beat in the beginning, was nice, and then he switched it up, and you know, it was okay, but that track was a little too long for me. Then he has another track called "Stupid" that's featuring Big Sean. That's one of those tracks that you know you're driving and you're leaning and you're just bumping to it. It's one of those tracks. I mean, that could be like another. It could be like his next single off that album if he really wanted to put out another song from that album. I think that would be it. And then also there's a song called 38 Special. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what the 38 is. And, you know, it's another banging track. I mean, the album was solid. Like I said, I felt like it could have been bigger. You know, if he wasn't into this whole extra stuff with, you know, trying to stir up beef with certain rappers, I was like, it wasn't working for him clearly. Because I felt like he would have sold a little bit more if he just promoted it a little bit better. But nonetheless, the album was it was really good. So I have it at 9. Number 8, I have Dave East. I think it was the HDIGH, which stands for How Did I Get Here? The album is a really good. You know, obviously he has that. How do I say? Like he has more of that '90s feel. Like I think he's in the wrong era because the way he raps in that '90s era. Like he would have fit perfectly if he had came out in the '90s. Um, I mean, there was a couple of tracks that I felt that was a standout. I think obviously this would probably be his biggest track on this album. Would be "Deeper Than Love" featuring Music Soul Child. I mean, it's such a nice mix. Like it's one of those songs like you're sitting back, you're listening to it, you kind of reminisce about certain things. It's like a really laid back kind of track. And I love it. I love how Music Soul Child was, you know, singing with obviously with his soul and everything on the hook. Like it was just a great mix. I love that song. I think that's probably my favorite song on that album. Then you have another one, Unbelievable. I believe Unbelievable is a track with Method Man, and you know, if you know, he did the Wu Tang Saga, and he played Method Man. So I know these two hooking up. I mean, it was a really good mix. You know, Meth, you know, shows that he still got it. You know, he still has that flow. Never went anywhere. And then there's another track called "A Thousand Miles." Um, like I said, I believe, you know, he came out in the wrong era, honestly, because he would have been perfect for the '90s. But this album, I believe, is number 8 on my list because you know I'm basing it strictly on lyricism, you know, the concept. You know, there's a lot to it, production wise, delivery. I mean, everything. So this album I have number 8. Number 7 I have DJ Khaled. Um, God did. God did it. It's a really good album. Like I mean, I was a little skeptical about this album because I know DJ Khaled. He's kind of in the same realm with Drake. Where what I mean by that is like they stick to a formula and it works for them. With DJ Khaled, obviously he's not an artist. He's a DJ, but he brings in a lot of these artists, and you know has like a collaboration album. So there's like about I don't know how many artists is on there. Maybe like 15 artists on it. And I felt it was really good. I mean, he had a lot of features on there. You got Jay Z, Rick Ross, you have Lil Wayne, you got uh, Buju Banton, Sizzla, you have Lotto, you have Jadakiss. I mean, there's a lot. I think Future's on a Drake. So I mean, it to me like he surprised me with this one. Like I didn't think like this album was gonna be any good. It's just I was more going into it like okay, let me just give it a chance. Let me listen to it. I listened to it and I was like, oh wow, okay, this album's solid. Like I like this. Obviously, my track on that album would be God Did. I believe that's the track with Jay Z, Lil Wayne, and Rick Ross. Clearly, Jay Z had the verse on there. Like he went in there for like about I don't know, like a couple of minutes, and he was just going in on it. And I was like, man, like Jay Z, he was nice on that track. I'm not gonna lie. Like he really dropped a lot of gem on that song. Obviously, that would probably be the best song on that album. Then you have The Streets Know My Name. That's with Buju Banton, Sizzla, and I forgot the other couple artists. But I mean, that's like more of a dance hall flavor. It's like a banging track. Like you could bang it in your car. It was a really good song, and then also I would say the Jadakiss interlude. Like he started it off with, if you guys remember, the versus battle with the Locks and Dipset. So when Jadakiss performed New York, New York, um, I mean, they got that little part from that verses. He begins with that, and then he starts off with the song. So I believe those are my top three songs on that album. But overall, it was pretty good. Like he surprised me with this album. I'm not gonna lie. I had doubts about it, but I gotta give it to DJ Khaled. Um, that's number 7 on my list. Number 6 on my list is Dreamville. This is obviously a collaboration type album. I think this has to do with DJ Drama. This album was really good. It's got J. Cole, there's a variety of artists on there. There's a couple of tracks that stood out to me. Stick, Freedom of Speech, and Lifetime. I felt this album was really solid. This album was, I mean, you got pretty much everything in this album. Like, you get like the guys that's basically spitters. You got guys that raps about like maybe the trap type things or drill music. So you get a little bit of everything on that one. So yeah, I had that number. What do I have it? Number 6. Number 5, I have Earth Gang. This hip hop group is pretty good. When I first heard the album, like I didn't get into it until I heard a few people saying that this album is going to be the album of the year. I was like, really? Let me listen to this album. And I started to listen to it, and I was like, oh, okay, these guys are pretty dope. You know, it's like a different type of sound. Like it's not your stereotypical sound that you hear, like all this drill music stuff. This is a little different. These guys are pretty good. A couple of tracks that stood out to me was Power. Um, I think Billy and Ghetto Gods. Those three tracks stood out to me, and I have that album number 5 because, I mean, you could argue that it's one of the best hip hop albums of the year. I wouldn't be mad at anybody saying that. Number 4, I have Lloyd Banks. What is his album called? The Curse of the Inevitable, Part 2. Lloyd Banks, we all know this guy. He always gets busy lyrically. So there's no doubt about that. Like this guy could rap like with the best of them. Um, I mean, this album was solid from start to finish. I mean, it has more of a dark feel to this album. Like all these beats are really hard, and I mean, he's always been nice. It's just obviously the situation with him and 50 Cent. It didn't pan out the way everyone thought it would. But I mean, when he came out with this album, I was like, wow, like Lloyd Banks didn't miss a beat. There's a couple tracks that stood out to me with Lloyd Banks. One of them is Impact. That's the first track on the album. Then Living Proof. That's with Benny the Butcher, like one of my favorite rappers right now out. That's out right now, Benny the Butcher. And also he had No Rewards. That was the second track off that album. Um, Obviously, it's critically acclaimed. Obviously, it's not gonna do like the big numbers, but the true hip hop heads know if they listen to this album, they know what it is. It's a classic for sure. So I had that number four. Number three. I mean, you have to have this guy on your list. Uh, Nas with King's Disease Part 3. I mean, out of the trilogy, this is hands down his best album out of that trilogy. I believe that's top five in Nas album. Like, as far as my top five Nas album, that's definitely top five. This album is just amazing. I mean, when you think about what hip hop embodies, like what a hip hop album is, I can't think of a better album than this Nas album, King's Disease Part 3. It's just hip hop to its fullest. Like, I mean, if you're a true hip hop head, you would appreciate this. Nas has been rapping like for like 30 years. This guy does like he does not even slow down. Like right now, like currently, like this guy is just a beast lyrically. Like no one's talking to Nas, man. Like Nas is just that guy. And I mean, I was really proud of him for putting out these albums. Like they're classic. This is an instant classic. There's a couple of tracks that I have that's you know my favorites on the track. One of them is Michael and Quincy. The other one is Legit, and the third one I would say is WTF, Shake My Head. Um, Nas, man, like he never disappoints me. Like this guy is just he's amazing, man. Like the longevity, like you guys wish. Like I hope like these younger generation look up to Nas and be like, yo, this is the way to go. Yeah, masterpiece for sure. Number two, I have Pusher T. It's Almost Dry. I mean, this album, oh my goodness. I was like, man, I've been waiting for a Pusha T album for a minute, and I knew like a lot of the stuff that Pusha T puts out, like he's always been nice with it. So I knew this album was gonna be really good. Um, it was received really well. Like a lot of people was talking about this is like the hip hop album of the year. I mean, anybody that says that, I mean, I can't be mad at it. I have to respect it. Pusha T, like he brought it, man. Like he always been nice lyrically. The production was really good. You had Pharrell and Kanye West producing, you know, like most of his album. I mean, it was just I loved it. I loved it. I mean, there's a couple of tracks that I love on there. Rock and Roll. That's the track with Kid Cudi. It was really good. Kid Cudi and I believe Kanye West produced it, and Pharrell produced it as well. Um, Diet Coke. I mean, that track. I mean, when you hear that track, you can't do nothing but bump your head to it. Like it's one of those songs that it makes you bump your head. Like you just can't help yourself and you just bump into it. Like you're like, damn. Or you give that mean mugging face while that beat's coming on. I'm like, that's my track. I was killing that track for a while. And then also, I Pray for You. That's actually a track with his brother Malice. And I mean Malice. I mean he hasn't been rapping for a while, but I mean obviously he still got it. Like that track was nice. I loved it. Um, you could hear like the organs, and I was like, man, I love it. I love it. This album I have is second. I mean, a lot of people said it's number one as far as like best hip hop album, but I do have one album that's actually above it, and that comes from none other than Kendrick Lamar with the Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. This album was just a masterpiece. Um, it's a double album, obviously. Kendrick, he didn't disappoint with this album. Like he took it, he had a range, like a lot of range on this album. Like he gives you, basically, like he could give you the bangers. You'll have like little club hits, but then he also has a song like, what is it? We Cry Together. I mean, when you talk about toxicity, I mean, I can't think of a track that explains that more than We Cry Together, because it seems so real. Like it's like if you listen to the song, and Alchemist, he did a great job with that production. He that beat was just ridiculous. But when Kendrick Lamar, and I can't remember the female that was rapping on it, but they're going back and forth, like their relationship is so toxic, and you could feel it. And a lot of the stuff that they say in the songs, like everybody can relate to it. And I'm like, oh my god, this is so real. Like, oh my goodness. So yeah, he really pushed himself. He really challenged himself, and I was like, man, this is what I'm talking about. I mean, finally we got like an album that's out of the norm. Like we were so used to listening to drill music and all that stuff, but he went left with this album. And I mean, there's another track, Die Hard. That Die Hard is like one of those, when you hear that track, you do your little 1-2 step. It's a club record, no question. And then my favorite is Father Time. This one really hits home for me. It talks about like basically like a relationship or a lack of a relationship with the father, and you know it gets really deep. And I was like, yo, man, this one really hits home. I really love that track. But I mean, Kendrick Lamar, like, I mean, this guy, I don't know, man. Like, he definitely had, in my opinion, the best hip hop album this year, like 2022. You could argue and say he has the best album this year. Period. Not just hip hop. I'm just talking about albums like in a whole for this year. You could argue and say he has it. And yeah, from start to finish. I mean, I don't even have to skip that album. I could just listen to it straight through. And that's my top 10 in as far as like the hip hop albums of 2022. Um, I mean, as far as like hip hop, I've already said what I needed to say about where hip hop is, and when you listen to these albums that I just list, and then there's a few others I probably left off of there. I mean, there's a little bit of hope. It's like when you're listening to these albums. The true hip hop heads will dig and find the good music out there. It's out there. I mean, they don't push it as hard as they used to. Like, they don't really support the good rap, like the good hip hop music. But the true hip hop heads will find those ones for sure. And I mean, hopefully going into 2023, it gets better. I'm just hoping it gets better. When you listen to these albums, I mean, you would think it's trending in the right direction. I'm hoping for that. And I will leave it on this note, because I know we are heading into 2023. I mean, 2023 is just around the corner. I would just like to say, hopefully everyone, stay safe, healthy, whatever your resolution is for next year. Hopefully you guys achieve it. For me, it's just always trying to be better than last. That's usually my New Year's resolution. Um, I mean, hopefully everyone, you know, accomplish everything that they set, for maybe next year. Whether it's, maybe to lose weight, maybe it's to tone a little bit, maybe it's to, maybe they're trying to get a certain job, or maybe, doing what I'm doing, like with the podcast, or whatever it is. Just keep working at it, and you will achieve it. I mean, consistency is the number one thing. And I just hope that everybody sticks to what they want to do, whatever that plan is. Like, I hope everyone executes it. I really do, because I really wish everyone well, and that's what I will take going into 2023. I'm actually looking forward to it, God willing. You know, this year it's been it's been interesting. Let's just say that it's been good. I had a lot of good moments. Some low moments, but you know it is what it is. But that's what I wanted to leave off with. Um, if I do not put out another video before the New Year's end, I would like to wish everyone, everyone, happy holidays, and a happy New Year. Till the next time, peace.